great segue into what I want to talk about, which is the importance of music in horror movies. And I think, unfortunately, that's an element of horror that gets overlooked a lot because we always think of, the effects and we think of the kills, we think of the villain, we think of the atmosphere, we think of suspense and tension and all those things. And we don't think it necessarily, I very seldom hear people talk about the score.
Uh-huh.
There's that famous story where Halloween was screened for
A college, I
studios.
think, right?
It was screened for studios, and it was before they had the music in it. And every studio said, "Oh, this is boring. This is not scary." Of course, then you add that theme, and it's a whole different story. To me, the music is just as important to creating the mood and the atmosphere as anything else. The music also can make, we were talking about exploitation and different, hitting different emotions. The music is definitely is so important in that, or the lack of music. There's excellent moment. There was a movie I was watching not long ago where I, I forget what it was. It was a Korean film, and it was one of those classic suspense scenes where the character's walking around in the dark and we know that there's something bad lurking in the dark, and it's building toward the crescendo of when something jumps out, and it right at that point it just the music just dropped out and it was just completely silent, and the silence like just put a chill down my spine. Just the lack of anything just chilled me. But I really think music is something that is imperative to a good horror film. And I wanted to mention some great scores that I don't think get enough love. The Day of the Dead score is something that I can listen to that in the car from beginning to end. I've got that on Amazon, whatever it's called, Amazon Music, the whole album, and I can just listen to that in the car. Great music. We all love John Carpenter stuff. We all love Halloween, but I think the Prince of Darkness score is really good and
Amazing.
Really
Oh yeah.
creepy.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, super creepy. Candyman, the Philip Glass score,
Woo!
Big time good.
it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The fact that they're not bringing him back for the remake or whatever it's supposed to be is just is a shame. Is a shame. Lucio Fulci's Zombie, boom, 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 boom. Just so simple, but incredibly effective. The Burning. I love the score for The Burning. Phantasm. Can you imagine Phantasm without that score?
Mm-mm.
I mean, think of Friday the 13th without Ki Ma Ma Ma, or the awesome score for Nightmare on Elm Street that his name escapes me at the moment.
Charles Bernstein.
Charles Bernstein did, yeah. Amazing pieces of music.
Think of Psycho without Bernard Herrmann.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jaws without John Williams.
Right.
Oh yeah, Exorcist. That had another really
Tubular
chilling score.
bells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those were some great scores that also The Keep, Tangerine Dream. I love the music in all of Michael Mann's films, but The Keep, of course, is really his only horror. But Tangerine Dream, everything Tangerine Dream did in the 80s was just stunning. But the Keep score is phenomenal.
I was talking about Italian horror earlier. If you see Goblin on the soundtrack, you're in for a good time, even if the movie's horrible.
Yeah, it's going to sound good at least.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those are just some scores that and just listen to them on their own. Like even I got the Death Waltz Halloween 1 through 5 box set on vinyl. And even though I've watched those movies a million times and heard those scores a million times, when you isolate just the score, you pick up on all these little nuances, even in the Friday the 13th stuff. Because really, you think Friday the 13th, you just hear Kiki Ma Ma Ma, and you think it's so simplistic. But listen to that score isolated for part 1. The part 5 score, I think Manfredini did an excellent job on that one. Just listen to that one isolated. You really pick up on a lot of nuances that you probably didn't hear while you were watching the film with the music. But I think definitely just check those out. Just kind of listen to them in the car, or if you're cleaning or whatever, you know what I mean. Play them in the background. It's I think you'll be really surprised.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know, Piz, one of the things, and everybody, one of the things that I've always done my entire life, ever since I was a 10-year-old, was I would love to get cassette movie soundtracks. That's how you know I'm old. But cassette movie soundtracks. And even back to the Fridays, and I would just listen to them. And it would just, I would get like a physical certain feeling. Piz, I want to go back to Friday 5. I love the action cues in Friday 5, like particularly when Pam is fighting Roy Jason in the barn. And I think it's like she hits him with the axe, but you can really hear how the music really revs you up. It kind of goes, and it's kind of moving to as the scene is going. And I love, and I really love the cue for when Tommy sees the vision of Jason. And then he disappears, and the music kind of just and he disappears, and it's like, wow. And I love also the score for Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
When Jodie Foster confronts Buffalo Bill, and the music just swells up and it builds, and she goes freezing. Oh, I love the music. It's just the way it makes you feel.
Yeah, well, and the thing with Manfredini is everybody thinks, probably think every movie is the same score, right? But they're different scores with similar themes. But yeah, I mean, listen to part 1, listen to part 3, listen to 4, listen to 5. They've all got their own nuances. They've all got their own kind of vibe to them.
Yeah.
That separate them.
His work on House is fantastic too. The score for House is really good, and he did Deep Star 6, which I just watched, and again, you could tell it's Harry clearly, but I love that he's a big Bernard Herrmann fan, because sometimes a classic orchestral style soundtrack I love. I really do. I think it fits for certain stuff, like Hellraiser's score is orchestral and it's beautiful. It's
awesome.
Doug Bradley talked about that in Search of Darkness. He goes, Hellraiser has the best soundtrack, and I'm hearing him say, it's like, is it really? And then they play it, and then you're like, wait a minute, that music is absolutely amazing. So I think it just, sometimes stuff will surprise you, and when you hear, like Piz says, Angelo Badalamenti did Dream Warriors, he did the original stuff behind it, and you can hear that on Spotify or whatever, and you listen to it, and Angelo Badalamenti's a god anyway.
Oh,
but
yes.
You hear it, and you hear some of the stuff he does, and it's so underneath that you don't tell, but you're like, Jesus, this is amazing. But one thing I love about Carpenter is, to me, he's the AC/DC of horror movies. Instead of 3 chords and like The Truth, as they say, for me, it's 3 chords and a key change, because that's what Carpenter does. He'll do something simple, then he'll change it up a key, and it's the same pattern you're hearing melodically, but he goes up a key, then he goes down 2 keys. Listen to The Fog, and that's his trademark. He does a lot, but it's amazing. I love Carpenter's simple approach to his music. I know it seems so effortless for him, but it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of his work on, like you said, Prince of Darkness. Such good stuff. Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay. Oh, his Stuff in the Mouth of Madness. He purposely changed that to a rock score because he wanted it to seem in a different reality than his usual stuff. Because, the premise of it is it's not reality. It's all in a book, right? Well, so he wrote that score to be different. And I remember when I went to see it, sitting in the theater seat, and the score starts, and I'm like, what? This is not usual for John Carpenter. This is unusual score, but I liked it. I liked that rock edge. It gave something to it. And it also gave you a little start, because John Carpenter's stuff when you hear it, and that one was so different that you're like, whoa, this is going to take me on a different ride.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I also really, really like the score for Ginger Snaps. I think that music is beautiful and haunting, and it sticks with you. It sticks with you once you hear it. Also, one of the ones that I actually do like to listen to when I'm cleaning and stuff, and it's not it well, it does have a movie to it, but the Silent Hill score for Silent Hill 2 mostly. I really enjoy that score from that video game. It's haunting, it's beautiful, it makes you feel, and I like that. I like the fact that not just in movies but in video games too, the score matters because it'll take you into whatever feeling it wants you to be in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
And going back to John Williams, man, Jaws, Star Wars, Jurassic Park. I mean, he's done so many scores that are
Raiders.
just iconic. Raiders, but I remember being a kid. You know, in the 70s, you couldn't rent movies. Once you saw it in the theater, that was it for 2 years, 3 years maybe. If you're lucky to see it on TV again, right? I went out and actually got the soundtrack to Star Wars. Then I would sit there on my parents, you know, I actually had the LP, the record, the vinyl, and I would spin that sucker and put the headphones on, and I could like relive the movie just by listening to the score.
Yep.
It was amazing. I mean, unfortunately, people nowadays aren't forced into that kind of situation, so they don't apparently feel the need to do that. But it was out of necessity that I did it, and I'm glad because it was a really great experience that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
You know,
I think it's sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I'm sorry, Lauren. I already spoke. Go ahead, bro.
Well, I was just going to say that with the horror genre and music in particular, there's basically it goes back to the stage productions of France and Germany, centuries ago when music was being used and developed to make the audience really uncomfortable to begin with the Grand Guignol performances. So there's a long tradition there. And I always love when the scores actually are providing information that the movies themselves only intimate at. I love the Herman score for Psycho is a great example of that, but more modernly, Colin Townsend's score for Haunting of Julia is brilliant because it uses a child's toy that's in the film as part of the score, but then there's also a theremin line in it that is really discordant and strange, and it makes you realize like the tone of the movie is about a ghost child. It's actually in the music. The plot is just woven. I think Ethan Johan's score to Game Over brilliantly lets you know that what you're watching. I don't even want to say what it is, but if you listen to the score and listen closely, it'll tell you what the movie is. And it's done so cleverly that it works psychologically to prepare you for the movie you're watching. George Deaton's score for Toolbox Murders, the original, is absolutely one of my favorite because as dark and sinister and gross as that movie gets, that score lets you. It is deep and dark and droning and nasty and basic and raw. And so is the movie. So I think when it works, it's because the music
Completely second that.
the music is informing the film itself. It's not just laid over to make the movie's scares work or whatever, which is why a lot of modern scores leave me really cold because you have the cat jump through the window and we have violin screech to tell you, oh, by the way, you're scared. Whereas when
James Wan.
Exactly. But a successful score actually is talking about the cat jumping in the window for 3 minutes beforehand. They're slowly working the motifs into the music to prepare you for the scares that are coming so that they actually have impact before they hit, not the moment after. Because if they hit the moment after, they're instantly they just vanish from your psyche. It doesn't matter. It doesn't build on anything. So I think a good score used properly is important. And I think that these composers are filmmakers in their own right.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say that's one of the things that I really miss is the elongate like the Fridays or like Jaws or Richard Donner's Superman or Batman with Michael Keaton, how you have these extended title sequences where you're just hearing score and it's just prepping you for what's happening. Matter of fact, I want to bring up a movie. Don't let anybody jump on me, but Fear with Mark Wahlberg.
Love
But
it.
the score, I love that movie. Sleazy, fun. But the score for that movie, I don't even know who made it. I don't feel like looking it up. But the score for that movie kind of has like these really heavy drums, and it really makes you feel just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I love how when that movie starts, it kind of goes dum, 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 and it's just setting you up like this world is dangerous. And when you see Mark Wahlberg with his really evil kind of, sexual kind of deviant look in his eye, and those drums kick in, you're like, this dude is about to do some nasty stuff, and that's how the music sets you up. I love the score for Fear with Mark Wahlberg. Awesome stuff.
I grew up listening to film scores. I got a special love for film scores. I mean, whether it's horror, whether it's drama, comedy, I mean, I don't care what the genre is. I mean, I live for film music and soundtracks and scores. I mean, today I was listening to the score for the Hot Shots movies. Why not?
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean, I love those movies and that music. But as far as horror is concerned, I'm telling you right now, I have listened to this score from first note to last note many, many times, and I do think it's a masterpiece. Jerry Goldsmith's score for Poltergeist. La 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 la.
Did you know,
Jamie? I think you need to accompany him on with the la la la.
yeah, did you know
saying.
that was a rejected piece of music from the Amityville Horror, and Poltergeist
Wow.
picked it up.
Interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say that for a crappy movie, Amityville Horror had a pretty cool soundtrack.
I know.
Yes.
I like
Yeah.
I like the la-las on that one. It was pretty.
Christian loves Amityville, so watch it.
I like it. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. If there is a such thing. I like it. A lot of people shit on it, but I like the original. The actual, the original.
I like the first three a lot.
Yeah, I like the first three a lot. I also wanted to say that, for an example of how music changes the feeling of a movie, the movie, The Blair Witch Project 2, Book of Shadows, the beginning sequence opens up with Disposable Teens by Marilyn Manson, but it was not supposed to originally. That was a Weinstein decision. The original score was Frank Sinatra, Witchcraft. And think about that for a minute. Think about how different the feeling would have been going into that movie with Witchcraft being that opening sequence. It would have changed your entire outlook and entire feeling on that movie. And I actually think it was a better choice because
I don't. I absolutely disagree with that, Jamie.
Well, that's
that movie is not a subtle movie. It's not a smooth film. I mean,
it's not put together the way it was supposed to be either, though.
I still don't get that movie. I've only seen it once.
I love that movie. I've seen it so many times. I
love that film too.
Again and again.
I love that film too. I think people would be very disappointed if they saw their long treasured director's cut. I really do. I think it's one of those cases where the studio interference had its head in the right place. They just didn't spend enough money to do it properly.
That's possible. I'm going by what I read and I've heard in a video that I saw about a person who did like an in-depth thing about it. But I just think that for me personally, knowing the movie like I do, it would have changed the tongue-in-cheek manner that it really was supposed to be. It was supposed to be more tongue-in-cheek than what we got, and they made it a little more serious, which is fine. I enjoyed it the way it is. I really do. It's one of the few movies that I constantly tell people, hey, I know you don't like this, but I do. I just thought it was weird that
it shows
changes
how
the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It shows how even something as small as changing a song, at any point in the movie really can change the tone of the entire film. That's how much power that so, I mean, just think of, instead of John Williams dun 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 dun, they played the Benny Hinn theme when Jaws was attacking somebody. It'd be totally
what would Lost Boys be without I Still Believe?
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Love
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
My man is jamming.
The only other score I really want to mention, Andrew would kill me if I didn't bring this up because we talk about this all the time, how much he loves it. Done out of necessity because they didn't have any money. Jesus Christ, if you guys, it's impossible because I don't think they have the original tapes for it, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre's soundtrack, what have you, the noises that Tobe Hooper made are absolute. I really want to curse to get my point across, but I'm not. They are amazing. The
Mhm.
atmosphere he makes with those devices he used and the sounds he made, to elevate that film anymore, which seems impossible. He did it with those noises and sounds he made in that film. Amazing, amazing stuff.
It's perfect that it's not really a musical score. It's kind of just banging pots together, and I think like he even said
Scraping things.
yeah,
Yeah.
he lifted up a piano and he just kind of scratched his nails across every little segment of the, to create these odd non-musical kind of sounds for that movie that, an ordinary score just wouldn't work. It would make it feel like a
Yeah.
movie, I think,
A studio couldn't do it, man.
Yeah,
Just what those guys did. Lightning in a bottle. Lightning
yeah,
in a bottle.
I agree.